It's the Craggy Rugby Podcast. I'm Rob Murphy. Connacht have lost heavily to Leinster. 21 points, playing 50 in the end. Brilliant start to the game when you think they scored 4 times in the opening 15 minutes and then it all fell away. Alan Deegan, welcome along.
Hiya, Rob.
Hiya, Alan. Dave Finn, welcome along.
Good evening.
Good evening. I try to keep the energies high on this podcast because our listeners, they have other things in their lives. We're not trying to bring them down. Thanks for listening. I know one or two of you do just drift away the odd time when we have a bad result. The rest of you are here with us so we can have our own little chat. It's not going to be too doom and gloom. It's going to be a little bit introspective. I don't know what else to say. But first things first, it's not good enough. Leinster were brilliant, not good enough from Connacht.
No, a lot of pretty good individual performances out there.
Might get back to that.
But I think it comes down to the fact that when we made a mistake, Leinster made us pay, and we weren't able to deal with that. Now Leinster are once they woke up, once they sort of got themselves into the game, because I don't think they were quite ready for the ferocity that Connacht started the game at. But once they woke up and made Connacht make the first mistake and then got the first try, you were sort of going, okay, this is going to be a long night.
Yeah, can't really disagree with it. I mean, how many times have we... Normally this happens up in the RDS. We've gone up there. I've seen worse score lines. I've even seen worse performance. I may even have seen worse performances. The first 15 minutes and the last 10 minutes. But last 10 minutes you put it down to this was structurally... They had made all their changes. They were off the ball. I'm going to say I don't think Leinster were brilliant. I think they showed up a week late. They should have done that performance last week. But I'm just trying to be nasty because they absolutely pummeled us.
They were brilliant. I was like, where do I go with that? Because they were brilliant. Hey, I put it to you.
That's the performance they would have looked for last week. And I knew when I saw the team that was picked, I knew that they don't like... I can't remember the last time Leinster lost 3 games in a row. Technically, I would have said it would have been the third time a Connacht senior team, if you include the Eagles, would have beaten Leinster in a row. I was listening to you, and you said you had mentioned James Tracy getting very annoyed about. Said there was hatred there. We don't hate Leinster. We're just annoyed by them. But they genuinely don't like us. I think it's their problem, not ours. And I thought for the first 15 minutes we were going to run over them, and then they showed up. And what's really scary, and I think it's really scary for Connacht in the long run, is that was probably 5 players. They sent out their first choice pack last week. There were 5 players missing. Van der Fleur came on. They got pummeled last week by La Rochelle. If we are this far off the Leinster pack, that isn't their first choice pack today, and their first choice pack is that far off La Rochelle, we're aiming for the Champions Cup. And I think that is probably the one thing I'm taking out of this, is how far off. We saw it against Leicester, but how far are we off the French teams and the English teams heading into another Champions Cup campaign?
Alan, you're very good at unjumbling my thoughts when it comes to these things. So, and here's what I'm going to say to you. I have this idea that maybe 5 or 6 years ago, or further, remember when Leinster won the Champions Cup and that scrum battle that turned around after half time, right? Scrums used to really matter. They don't seem to matter as much. But you know what seems to matter now? Mauls from lineouts. And what happened to Connacht tonight is what I think I remember happening in the past. This is my jumbled thoughts, where a team would come and just blows away in the scrums, and it just felt like, every time they got a position we were beaten. And that was like that tonight. And it looks like it's just a different set piece, but same story. We were just we couldn't match them, and then it's nearly pointless.
Yeah, well, every time we gave away a penalty, I turned around to William, because he was beside me tonight, and I said, here's a try for Leinster. Every time, from the very first one. Yeah. Every time. Yeah. Because you knew it was coming. Leicester have done it to us. Munster have done it to us. Ulster were doing it to a point.
Bristol did it to us.
Bristol did it to us. La Rochelle did it to us.
Yeah. Racing.
Racing did it to us.
They did it to us a few years back.
Yeah. So maybe this is one of the reasons we've got this South African lineout expert coming to help sort out a defensive lineout.
If you're stopping 25 to 40% of them, you have a different game.
But the thing is, we have seemed to have one strategy with defending lineouts, especially in our 22, and that is to steal the ball. And we didn't even attempt to steal the ball tonight, and that was truly worrying. I mean, I'm not dissing. I think we have to. This has got to be analysed. It's very easy to go, we're appalling. We've got no forwards. We were shocking. We've no physicality. We do have a physicality. We literally did hurt Leinster tonight. The problem was consistent. There wasn't any consistency to it. And when it came to structured plays from the opposition, we are really struggling.
You mentioned you were beside William watching the game. We should go and listen to your in-game stuff, get a little snippet of it. That's enough. I don't think we need anything from the commentary today. And then we'll get some post-game.
Connacht 16, Leinster 14.
Okay, 20 minutes gone, William. What a game.
Yeah, it's mad stuff. It's end to end. It's a bit loose. Connacht at one stage 16-0 up here. But Leinster have come back with a bang. It's going to be like this, has the makings of a shootout, but you feel Connacht would need to score next. A couple of silly penalties, and Leinster have turned those into points both times.
They have indeed. Okay, we'll talk again at half time, and I'm assuming we'll have a lot more scores to tell you about. No time. Okay, we've had a few more scores. It's half time. Scores now: Connacht 16, Leinster 33. They're just running this game.
It's a half of 10 minutes and 30 minutes, really. Connacht 16-0 up at one stage. Leinster in complete control now. Connacht have given away a lot of penalties, and it's cost them really real amount of points. Leinster have just got in there. They've been absolutely ruthless. They've upped their work rate. And Connacht look a little bit bedraggled. I don't know where this game goes from here. I thought it would be a shootout game, but I didn't quite see it going that way. One half, 49 points, and big questions for Connacht to see how they can get out of this.
Yeah, their body language as they come off wasn't great. Leinster sprinted off the field, and at least 3/4 of the Connacht team trudged off. Now, they did get try. Once they saw the Leinster guys going by them, they did try and bring it up, but they were in big trouble, I think, in the second half. But the wind is getting up, and it will be in their favour, so here's hoping we stop the rot, at least. We'll talk again on 60 minutes. Okay, it's now just coming up to 60 minutes, and it's going from bad to worse for Connacht. We're now 16, Leinster 45.
Yeah, Leinster are really turning it on. It's great to watch. I mean, their work rate is phenomenal, and their accuracy of what they're trying to do. Connacht aren't playing very well at this stage, but they're totally dominant in everything, and they haven't stopped. Apart from the first 10 minutes, and even the substitutes have come on now. The likes of Tadhg Furlong's just toddled out there, and the first thing he does is a huge heavy hit tackle, and then driving in against Papali'i to stop him as he was aiming into the 22. So there's no let up from them, and it's going to be a tough 20 minutes to the end of this game for Connacht.
It certainly is. There's not much more we can say from a Connacht perspective. We'll talk again at full time.
Final score here at the Sportsground: Leinster 50, Connacht 21.
Okay, William. Leinster finished the game off with a try at the very last, which is unfortunate because Connacht did manage to score a try and played some good rugby. The bouncers come on, did a bit of bouncing, but we're second division compared to these guys.
Yeah, they're a different class. They're just better technically, physically. Their work rate. From the side, they were 16-0 down at one stage, Leinster, but they just came back, they stuck to their plans, and they won the contact areas, and their decision making's better, and they're more clinical when they get the opportunity to finish, and they're well worth the 50 points. Hat-trick for Keenan, who was called man of the match. I think you could have named nearly anybody on the Leinster side. Connacht's bench did quite well. Kieran Marmion was impressed with Abraham Papali'i. He got through a lot of work there. He's still got a fair bit to learn. He struggles with the static ball, but if you can get him free get the ball to him when he's moving forward. But that was a really tough night, and now a 6-day turnaround to Munster next week, who are two out of 2. That's going to be a tough one in Thomond Park for them. But Leinster are back on the horse. They'd lost 2 games. Now they've got a win in this competition, and they are going to be thinking, if we win 4 more games, we're in the final of the Rainbow Cup, and they will just treat it that way. During the week at the Leinster press conference, Stuart Lancaster said, we're sending a strong team to Galway. Well, they did, and they won.
They certainly did, and fully deserved it. Oh, the next voice you hear will be Rob Murphy, or it'll be straight into the post-match interviews. It'll all depend on my edits.
Certainly not what we expected when you got a team. We talked about making sure we started quickly. We knew we had a Leinster team that was wounded, had 2 losses in a row, which doesn't happen very often at Leinster. So we have to start well. And after 13 minutes, we're up 16-0. You think, well, this is brilliant. It's exactly where we want to be. And but to their credit and to our disappointment in areas we need to fix, we gave them access to our A zone as soon as we did. They were scoring tries and seemed to score way too easily. So something we need to work on.
Yeah, it's funny because
we were saying in the commentary about the importance of not giving Leinster a penalty because it gave them a platform. But at the same time, the sheer certainty they had in scoring a try in that situation is a worry for you as well, separate to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an area that we've been trying to get right all year. A compliment to Leinster there. As soon as they got into that zone, they were very, very clinical, and they managed to get a lot of points there. So something we know is going to be coming next week. We know exactly what Munster will have had a game plan anyway, but they were watching that, going, well, that's probably reinforced everything they were thinking. Let's try and get penalties, get into the A zone. Let's launch at it through maul or our war, and if we're not able to do that, let's make sure we try and attack their breakdown, because they were the areas that hurt us tonight.
Andy, bottom line, season success when you get to the Champions Cup, so no one's going to say anything other than that, but there does seem to me to be at times a gap between the likes of Leinster and Connacht that I haven't seen before at certain moments along the season. Are you feeling that, and you're looking back at your years, and what's that about? Why are Leinster at times looking just so far ahead of Connacht in moments like this? Or as we saw in other games early in the season, we've seen moments where Connacht just looked a good bit off the pace.
Yeah, well, it's 2 games in the season against Leinster. We won one, they won one. So I wouldn't say they're miles ahead of us. You look at the scoreline there today, and you go, well, that scoreline probably doesn't look real good, but I actually don't think the scoreline's as reflective as the game as what it was. So I'm actually not too worried about that, to be honest with you, Rob. I think we had a real opportunity tonight to be the first team at Connacht to win home and away. We weren't that team, so we're disappointed with that. We're disappointed with the performance, but I don't see the gap being massive.
Just going into the next game against Munster, there is going to be that sense of, can Connacht bounce back? And that's the flip side of the inconsistency. What we saw in Ravenhill, what we've seen in RDS, as you pointed out to me there, could easily come again in Thomond. You performed well there the last time. You're looking for the same.
Yeah, we are, and that's our away forms. We seem to get far better results than we do at home. So, in a good way, we're going to Thomond Park, so we get a chance to play them there. The last performance there, we missed out by 3 points. I actually thought on the night, I thought we had a real opportunity to win that game. Now we didn't. Nor did we beat them here. So they've had 2 wins against us this season. It's a great opportunity for us to get a win in the 3rd game.
Peter, thanks for joining us. How are you going to reset now, and maybe just speak to the inconsistency that we're talking to Andy about this year, because it has made this season kind of, just harder to kind of enjoy perhaps for you guys, because what a win 2 weeks ago, what a disappointment today.
Yeah, ultimately we just have to look at our systems and how we stuck to them and where we went wrong. So we'll have a look at the video on Monday and before that individually, see where we went wrong, and that's all you can do is just look where we can improve the next week. So all eyes on Munster.
And the post-game press conference there, that's what you were listening to. I felt I just didn't take that where I wanted to with Andy. So, I was really interested just to understand how he sees these contrasts. And in fairness, I think part of the reason why he didn't answer is because I didn't take it really with the question. But also, I think as well as that, he doesn't know yet, but I bet you he's wondering. Because that's some contrast. I said it to you in this podcast 2 weeks ago, Alan. I said Connacht don't tend to back these ones up. And for once, like a stop clock, I was right.
Yeah, but for 15 minutes they were backing it up. But
that's what Andy Friend said.
Yeah, and then they made a mistake, and then let Leinster into the game. And once Leinster got the try from their first attempt, you sort of knew that things were going to get worse and worse, and they just grew into it. And every time we made a mistake, they punished us badly. Look, Leinster are a really, really good side. I was listening to some of the podcasts this week. It was hilarious listening to guys going on about all the problems in Irish rugby and the problem. I'm thinking, there's only 2 or 3 teams who can beat Leinster.
You caught a bit of that. You know what I'd love for someone to listen, actually. Can you do this? Stuart Lancaster last week in the press conference, drop in a little bit of this here, Alan, in the edit, because someone asked him at the start of the press conference about how things are, and just on your train of thought there, and it was almost like, what are you going to do? Where's the root and branch review? He had a brilliant answer. Will we listen to him?
Yeah.
And how hard it is to win, at the highest level. It's rugby is a sport that you need. It's down to fine margins, and you need little things to go your way. some of which were in our control. And I drew the analogy actually of the Patriots, because I'm reading the book The Dynasty at the moment, and talking about their success in American football. And you go back to 2002 when they started to build and win the Super Bowl. They've won it 6 times since 2002, but that actually means they've lost it 12 times.
Yeah, that's your point. Like, Lancaster's on the same page as you. I love listening to your Lancaster. We can listen to him. I wish we could talk to him more. Dave, you jump in here, but that's Alan's point. It's like, it's not that bad. This is all right. La Rochelle are a big side. They got the better of them on home turf. Leinster got to a semi-final. They're a brilliant side. They're miles ahead of the rest of us.
Oh, they are. My God, they are. I mean, I can't explain.
They're not in crisis.
They're not in crisis, because I actually was there going, well, after Footen was saying, well, there's clearly a drop-off in some of the Leinster teams. And I went, hold on a minute, I'm saying this. The only drop-off I can see in a Leinster team is between the Eagles team that they sent here, which wouldn't even be their first choice Eagles team.
Why you call them the Eagles team?
Sorry, the Leinster A team. The Leinster A team. The Leinster A team that came here. That was probably the weakest Leinster A team I've seen in a while. But they still scored 4 tries on us. Those guys are probably, let's be ranking up, those guys are between 45 and 60 in terms of, if you're doing a depth, they're 45. 5 to 6 choice guys in some positions. Now, some of them have played. Jamie Osborne has played. Yeah. But he's nowhere close to this team tonight. Now, he was here as part of their squad, but he's nowhere close to coming into their finals of the Pro 14, and certainly not the European team. They could have put out another 15 guys that would have all had 20, 30 Pro 14 games and would have still possibly done a job on this. I go back to remember the game. It was the last time we were in the RDS before everything closed down. Remember they sent out a team of kids and we lost that game by 50 points. There is I just think Leinster, if they're not 100% switched on, things can happen to them. They didn't switch on for the first 15 minutes today.
They didn't switch on for the first 15 minutes against Exeter, and they were in real trouble, and then they figured it out, and they looked like the Champions Cup winners they could be, and may well be next year.
The reason they didn't switch on at all against Munster. At all, and they didn't switch on for most.
Not worried about that.
And they didn't switch on for most of the game at the RDS against us. But when they did, they scored tries. But when Leinster switch on and they're 100%, and they're angry. Remember, they were very, very angry. They were trying to prove a point to themselves tonight, and they proved it to themselves. And remember, that wasn't their first choice team. There were 5 changes to the pack from last week, so they've still got angry guys to come back.
Pause. We're going to bring this to the end. Let's bring Lindley in as well for our final. We'll wrap this up, because I want to bring this into the final. So, Lindley, you've missed bits. Don't worry about it. Just join in. So, here we are. We're coming to a conclusion. We've given Leinster all the credit we can, okay? And if you want to double down on that, you can. What I want to ask you, Alan, in on this as well, is where to now? Connacht need to make some changes. I'm putting you on the spot here, guys. All right? It's nothing against the players you want to see changed out or in, but I'm just going to start by saying, I'm just going to put one player out there. I'll start with you on this. Dominic Robertson-McCoy has earned a start. Nothing against Beelum. He's earned a start. That's my starting point. A few players now need to probably be given a chance because some other players just haven't performed tonight.
Oh, I see no reason why, at this stage of the game, that's a possibility. Maybe, it depends on, Frenwick can either punish them by changing the whole team up next week, or he could say, you've got to go back out and prove yourself. Because remember, some of these players are also playing for Irish selection.
Yes.
So, it's a tricky one. And do you want to go down there and win? Take that risk? It's.
I just feel like there are some changes that could really, could just really give that team an impetus. That's
look, maybe even someone like Adrian Papali'i could start for a change and do the first 40 and get the momentum. Just maybe it's time to swap it around a bit, But look, you do want to go with your tried and true players, those who are fit anyway, and it's just today they got a bit beaten up up front, particularly in the set pieces. And, even talking to Andy French tonight, he was talking about the physicality that they just have to become more physical. Yeah. And, Connacht have never been necessarily a hugely physical side. Yeah. Always been reasonably skillful and, and good in the back line. So it's hard to put your finger on it. I think no matter what they did tonight, they were going to lose because they were coming up against a Leinster side that was no way. Well, they had something to prove. They had something to prove after 2 defeats. They had something to prove after the Champions Cup exit. They had something to prove to make sure that Connacht didn't think they were going to have 2 wins in a row over them, and that they were determined. And they didn't have to put out their first 15 team. There was enough.
They made 10 changes.
There was enough first 15 players.
When looked like they had the first team.
Well, exactly. And when you've got the, even Ken Callagher, I've never seen him play as well actually in the Sportsground, as he did tonight. There was huge incentive for them, and you have to take your hat off and say, look, lulled Connacht into a bit of false sense of security at the start. Yeah. Great start from Connacht, and then all of a sudden it was like, we mean business here. We've got to do this. I mean, some of those players are also fighting for first-team selection as well.
And some of those players may, outside the lines right now, and may well get into the lines. There are players on the field there who might well work their way in.
Yeah. You're looking
do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of some of those World Cup warm-ups where one team has a different agenda than the other and everyone's reading too much into it, because there was a little bit of a feel like that. So maybe that's one of the reasons why people should be taking glass half full. That's pushing it, not glass half full, but just taking some positive.
Yeah, well, I started just watching players, individual players.
You said this at the start of the podcast. We're going to hear who Alan thought actually played well.
Well, you look at Papali'i. I thought he was excellent until he ran out of steam with about 5 minutes to go. But he lasted. He was doing an enormous amount of work. And he's now developed this Nakarawa. Yeah, this Nakarawa. Whoa, boom. He goes, whoa, this is cool.
Did you see the move where Leinster actually, I think I counted 6, but that might have been an exaggeration, but it must have been 5 players tried to tackle him under the ball.
Yeah, but we didn't get the ball away. And that's the frustrating thing, was that he does honeypot players, and we need to get the ball away quicker than that. But I thought Sean O'Brien was very, very good in the centre. Tom Daly had the first half was just out of this world. I thought he was absolutely brilliant.
And that's a good partnership that's worked. They're heading towards being the most prevalent centre partnership. We've had 7 different centre partnerships. If they go one more game, they'll be at 6. Arnold's probably going to work his way in there maybe, but O'Brien not under contract yet. Interesting. They need to get that man signed up, I think. Mullingar, Sean Garrett O'Brien, as we like to say, as opposed to Sean Porrick O'Brien, is it?
Who's the second row, who's been injured for a while. And the other one I thought was playing really well until he went off with his we believe it's a head injury, but we're not exactly sure, was Jared Butler.
Yeah, he had a really good start to game. We saw him at half-time just looking disconsolate, to be honest. Yeah. They've me a word for it. And because he's just had a few knocks in the last a few months, including the suspension. So, yeah, I felt sorry for him. Dave, we're kind of winding towards final thoughts. It's been such a good week. We haven't even mentioned Bundee Aki. We haven't even mentioned him.
He was here tonight. We weren't sure if he was, but he was here. I just saw him just as he passed by there. I thought, so he was here tonight, because there was great energy coming from the bench, which I have to say was great to hear, because
the Hunt was leading that. He was doing the work.
He was.
Yeah, but that was matched by Leinster.
It was matched.
I mean,
but it was only matched. We weren't outdone. We have been outdone here quite a lot, because we've only won 3 games at home this season, if I'm right.
Yeah. We're kind of adding it up there. Glasgow, Benetton and Cardiff. Hope we haven't missed one there.
So yeah, we I was really pleased with that. I was glad to see the energy that was there, but we just didn't quite have the quality that Leinster had.
Just looking ahead to next week, I think Munster are bouncing, and they made changes last week, and but I think we should take some confidence from what we did down there the last time. This is a strange competition. I've seen the results are, everybody seems to be playing basketball. We've gone Southern Hemisphere. The results are, there's been no 10-6s in this.
That was a strange game today. We've analysed it in the context of any game, but I don't feel like it fits into the normal.
No, there were things that we. I just think we need. I'm looking forward to next season, because I do think I've seen this is across all sports. And I saw GAA today, I saw soccer today, and the lack of fans is making it. But I've never seen a team that seems to be so completely symbiotically related to its home fans as Connacht, because everybody else has put in at least, is breaking 50-50, 60-40. We aren't. Yeah, we have only.
There'll be studies around the world of who is the greatest home support ever, and they'll contrast COVID games to pre-COVID games, and Connacht.
I'm going to be frank as well. Also, I think we do slightly intimidate. This is not as intimidating a place when there's nobody here.
Yeah, it's an open
I've seen it with Eagles games. I've seen it with kids games. Even schools finals when there's an atmosphere here.
If I can just take your point, because it is truly, and I've been coming here since 1986. I think my first game against Fiji. Because they literally. The noise this place can generate is outrageous. It's on top of a hill, there's wind everywhere, and yet it's just chilling how incredible, quite literally, and in terms of noise.
They did an amazing job with the clan stand, because before you used to get a bit of a sound that came across from the main stand, but there was nothing here. We just had the steps. Yeah, just the steps and a little barrier at the back, and they went from 3 steps to 5 steps near the barrier, and we made a bit of noise, but it dissipated into the air. Now we've got this beautifully acoustic speaker-like element of it. The roof is nice and low, and everything is metal, and it just bounces straight onto the field.
Just to back it up, is even when there's nobody here, the sound the subs are making as well does sound ridiculous.
We could do with drowning that out, and it'd be great when it happens. To finish though, everywhere around the world, Connacht rugby people were so bloody proud, Lindley, of their adopted son, Bundee Aki. And I think he speaks for everything about what Connacht rugby's about as well. Like, he bothers the rest of the country because they're like, why is he getting in? Because he's not one of the other provinces. He's one of ours. He's so committed to Connacht. And there he is, getting on the Lions. Our 4th Lion officially, although Robbie Henshaw, he's not the 5th, but for me he is. As far as I'm concerned, he's our 5th Lion. I'm just saying it.
But can anyone here say that you were totally surprised when Bundee was selected?
I was surprised. William was surprised. Alan was surprised. Lindley, you weren't.
I wasn't surprised. I was not surprised at all.
Yeah.
In fact,
I'm not in hindsight, but that's a bit late.
No.
Quite literally.
I was actually talking to my husband about it about a week ago, and we were talking about the Lions, and I said we were talking about players in the Lions and whatever, and Robbie Henshaw going, and I think it cropped up during one of the internationals when they were talking about Robbie Henshaw and Bundee. And I kind of said, Jesus, I said, they still are one of the best centre partnerships.
Yeah.
Bundee offers
the England game.
and Bundee offers a hell of a lot. And I know Warren Gatland reasonably well. I know sometimes the way he thinks. He likes going outside the box. He's looking at players. What can Bundee bring? Bundee can bring a hell of a lot to that team, just in terms of his defensive ability, his attacking ability, his
against powerful South African back.
He's not intimidated by players like that. He has a hardiness and a grittiness to him,
And he brings the best out of Robbie.
Yes, he does. Absolutely. And because he creates this aura.
That is just amazing.
And we remember some of our best days following Connacht were like 2016, just watching that. And even before, even those seasons before, we weren't getting the results, but the two of them were combining. That was when you used to be saying, listen, there's something there, lads, there's something there, stick with this.
Despite a lot of the reaction has been, first of all, I think if you're going to complain about a centre going on the Leinster, Chris Harris, what? And secondly, the reaction has been quite clearly, people don't watch outside their bubbles. There are English players in this tournament going, I'm not sure what
You're guilty of that too.
There's English players. Sam Simmons is one of them, but I just haven't seen enough of him.
He's been brilliant. I've called him a few times, and I've listened to a couple of radio commentaries.
I don't know. I haven't seen Johnny Hill enough for Exodus.
Me neither.
Yeah, but I also do think the reaction to Bundee has been, what does he bring? He gets sent off a lot. Well, yeah, he got sent off in his last game, but look what he'd done in the 15 minutes before that. I said, you don't watch enough Connacht, and more importantly, you certainly didn't watch enough Connacht in 2015-16 when that partnership was at its height, and then it was broken up through no fault of them. So
yeah, it's just one of those things, and we've accepted that. But
I think the other thing about Bundee is, let's face it, he's a good crack. Okay, so if you're going on a Lions tour, there's always got to be a few players.
The Sky documentary crew are just like, woo!
Well, I was one of the blessed ones to be on the plane on the way back from Edinburgh, in the pro.
Yeah, we were on the ferry.
And
we've let that go, haven't we?
And Bundee led the celebrations and the spirits and the high spirits, and I just think that Bundee is.
Do you remember the Bundee Aki song? Was all the 2,000-3,000 Connacht fans around the bus, and it's Bundee. That was in my head all Thursday.
You see, you remember he crowd surfed.
He did crowd surf. Listen, I mean, he's that kind of character, and I know we have a lot of listeners who aren't Connacht fans but enjoy our podcast, and welcome. And we're always welcome. And if we have Leinster listeners, well done. Your team were fantastic today. But I think it's just important that we stress to you, one of the reasons why I was given out about people pronouncing his name Aki instead of Aki. It's because you just don't pay attention if you call his name that. Pay attention, and it's okay. I've made mistakes pronouncing things a million times, so don't get it wrong. Don't feel bad if you got it wrong, but please get it right going forward. It's Bundee Aki. There's no need to double check this. That's how he pronounces his name. But the second point I was going to say is that this man is like, if you go into any rugby family in Galway, Mayo, Sligo, Leitrim or Roscommon, and they have kids maybe under 10, and you ask them, just ask them, Connacht, who's plays for Connacht?
Don't even go into a family who knows rugby. Go into people who don't know rugby and they know Bundee Aki.
He's probably the most recognisable sporting icon in the west of Ireland, and he represents everything that's really important in the modern world. And I'm sorry if you don't agree with this, get off this podcast. It's about people settling in other countries, being part of those communities and ending up representing them in a way that we could never have imagined. He's one of us, and we're very proud of him.
Loose, cut it loose. Break out or nothing changes. Side